Hello, my name is Rick Pagano and I represent Wojan Windows and Doors. I'd like to talk a little bit today about some different trends that are happening within the window industry, the fenestration industry. Hopefully you'll find this educational and helpful in making decisions on what products to use within your projects.
Hi, today we'd like to talk a little bit about a trend that's happening in the fenestration industry, the use of non-aluminum or non-metal products in commercial applications. I want to try and look at this two separate ways. First of all, talk about some facts, or as is being said frequently lately, let's follow the science. The other approach to this is looking at logic or common sense. For decades, the window industry has seen aluminum products used in commercial applications, high rises, mid rises, very large windows, complex configurations of windows being put together in the same opening, et cetera, et cetera. That trend has seemed to be changing lately with some emphasis on some fiberglass, vinyl, composite, and even wood windows, which is something that has to be looked at very closely. There are some aspects of fiberglass, vinyl, wood, and composite that they may possess some thermal values as a material, if you will. But more importantly is the strength, durability, longevity, and the proven success of aluminum products in these applications. Facts about aluminum. Strength to weight ratio is unquestionable as it's compared to the fiberglass, vinyl, composite, and wood. And this is why larger openings or larger configurations truly should be using an aluminum frame system. The strength is just not there with those other materials. Aluminum is time tested. It's proven to be successful in all of these commercial applications that we've been seeing. Lasts a minimum of 35, 40 years. It's easy just to look around and see commercial projects, high rises, mid rises, that have still been in use long past 30, 35, 40 years. The use of trims such as brick molds, strap anchors, face flanges, receptor systems, panning systems, these are all much easier made and quicker to market and more economical in aluminum than they are in these other products. And they connect better as well. So you have to really look at all of these aspects and bring all of these things together as far as the properties of aluminum. Aluminum is designed for complex configurations by its strength and its ability to be able to be shaped into various profiles relatively economically. I want to touch on finish. Anodized finish is a finish that's been used historically in high rises, mid rises, commercial applications, as is paint, as is powder coat. But the anodized finish is something that you can only get in a metal product, specifically aluminum. So keep that in mind. The durability and the hardness of anodized, again, is unquestionable. These are facts. There are some aluminum-clad wood windows that do have an aluminum cap. They may be able to provide an anodized finish, but that's the exception more than the rule. AAMA, which is now referred to as FGIA, published a report, AMC 1-13, and it talks specifically and gives facts on the strength to weight ratio, its resilience, its strength, corrosion resistance, it's non-toxic. In fact, aluminum does become stronger in cold weather. It's not going to become brittle. Longevity, again, lasts a minimum 35, 40 years. That's proven. It's not projected. Keep in mind some of these other products, fiberglass, vinyl, composite, and wood, in their current shape or form, may not have even been around for 20 years. And that's really what you design a building for, a minimum life of 20 years. So keep that in mind as well. Aluminum is quick to market when you have to make special shapes, as we've touched on before. And it's designed, again, for these complex configurations because of the strength. And again, the connections that need to be made to make sure that the integrity of that opening is intact and waterproof and weatherproof. Sustainability is a big thing these days, and we realize that. Energy savings on manufacturing aluminum is very, very good, and it has to be compared to these other products, fiberglass, vinyl, composite, and wood. 100% of aluminum is recyclable. Estimates are 70, 75%, even more. of aluminum that's been put in use is still in use. That's a pretty high percentage. Fiberglass, vinyl, and composite products, their waste oftentimes end up in a landfill. Keep that in mind. Here we're seeing a few projects that represent common uses of commercial aluminum window products. These obviously are Wojan projects, but you can search other commercial aluminum window manufacturers and see the same thing. And these buildings have been used like this for decades. When you look at these configurations, this is something that has to be looked at very, very closely. How are these done when you look at if you're going to consider a fiberglass vinyl composite window system? As I mentioned earlier, AAMA now goes by the name of FGIA, or Fenestration and Glazing Industry Council. They set the standard for every type of material used in making window frames. Keep in mind that there's only 4 performance classes: AW, CW, LC, and R. AW is the highest, R is the lowest. In that, there are many aspects that need to be complied with to be able to meet those performance classes. The criteria is very specific for each one of those 4. And remember, there are only 4. I want to quickly point out that anything other than these performance classes, AW, CW, LC, and R, any of the previous ones became obsolete in 2008. Another important note, DP is not a performance class by either AAMA or FGIA. DP is actually a component of one of the other 4 classes. It's a numerical value based on its design pressure. This is something that has to be looked at very closely. There should be an initial test report that a manufacturer has done with the product that they're presenting to you that you should be able to get a report on that states the test size, the overload factors, the water resistance ratio, et cetera, et cetera. By the way, Wojan provides a 1-hour CEU as a lunch and learn. If you're interested in that, please feel free to contact us. AW and CW rated windows are intended for commercial applications. There's higher performance criteria, and that's why. LC and R are intended for residential applications. They have lower performance criteria. And again, this is determined by FGIA or AAMA, and it's the same for every manufacturer. Non-metal windows have a tendency to emphasize the thermal aspects, whereas aluminum windows obviously emphasize the strength, the integrity, the longevity, the water resistance, and many other factors. But do not overlook the thermal values of a thermally broken aluminum window. Thermal break systems have proven to be very, very efficient. And there's something that also has to be taken into account as you look at the whole, your whole consideration about what product to use. The obvious question that seems to be looming is the fiberglass vinyl composite wood windows. Why do they not test to the AW and CW standards, especially the AW standard? The AW standard is the highest performing class, and in fact, it has a requirement to be an AW product that simulates everyday use for 7 years. There's no other class that requires that, and I frankly would suggest that you'd search that very carefully when you consider this in a commercial application. Let's talk about what makes sense, or some logic. What was the design intent of the product that you're considering? Was it intended originally to be used in residential applications? This can be found oftentimes in the warranty that's printed on a manufacturer's website. It will tell you that it was intended to be used in single-family homes, townhomes, duplexes, and there's also exclusions for commercial application. That said, the manufacturer may offer you a special warranty. If that's the case, what's been modified about the product? Or is the warranty just a piece of paper that says they're going to stand behind it? And they may very well stand behind it, but the product that you bought wasn't designed for that intent. Again, the question should be asked that why can't they simply just test at a higher standards and achieve the AW and CW ratings? These other products we're referring to, or other materials, I should say, have they been time tested in these applications over an extended period of time? Of course not. Why is that? Many of them are relatively new. They haven't even been around for 20 years. So how can you say that they're going to last 30, 35, or 40 years? It's a projection. It's proven the longevity of aluminum in the use of these projects throughout the country, in fact, throughout the world. Manufacturers should be able to provide you with an initial test report when a product was designed. There should be a retention date as well that says it's been verified, that it's gone beyond the 4 years. But if you can't get that according to AAMA protocol from an independent third-party test lab, that should be a question in your mind. Installation is obviously critical, both effective installation, but just the initial, how do you get it installed? Fiberglass, vinyl, composite wood units typically rely on nail fin application, which is extremely difficult and very, very expensive to do when you get to 10, 15, 20-story buildings. And then once again, you're relying on that material to hold that window in place, not the strength of aluminum. Big decision for owners and for designers. It doesn't make sense to sacrifice the merits of all of the rigorous, proven testing for structural integrity, air infiltration, the percentage of water penetration resistance, et cetera, minimum test sizes, and all the other aspects of a testing criteria for thermal values, which are oftentimes vague or arbitrary. That seems to be something that should be weighed very, very heavily before you make that decision. Using the wrong product in the wrong application, as we're suggesting here, is it wise to risk building damage, allowing water intrusion, allowing water to get into wall cavities or any other areas of the building that it was never intended to get into? Then obviously what's going to happen is there's going to be structural damage, building damage, and of course the risk of mold. And that's a very, very expensive remedy. So food for thought. Suffice to say that there are many questions that should be asked and answered before using fiberglass, vinyl, composite wood windows in or other non-metal products in commercial applications. You have to look beyond the size of the company or the brand name recognition that they may have richly earned and deserve, but how is that reputation realized or achieved? It was many times through residential products and residential sales. Keep that in mind. Once again, the warranty. If the warranty is a residential warranty, it may not be transferable to a commercial application. This has to be looked at very closely. It has to be examined. But again, remember, even if you get a commercial warranty as an extension of a residential warranty or a crossover, was the product intended for that use? That's really the big question. Because at the end of the day, this last bullet point on the slide is the one that we all can't ignore. There's a lot of lawyers out there. Something bad happens, lawyers get involved. At that point, it has nothing to do with claims. It has of a sales department, a marketing department, or any other department within an organization. It's going to come down to what can be proven and what was really the intent. Once again, I wanted to show you this collage of pictures that gives you an idea of common usage, successful usage throughout the commercial aluminum business, fenestration business of our products. And again, it's not just Wojan, but it's other manufacturers that make commercial aluminum products. The systems are designed to be used in these applications. Keep that in mind. Thank you for your time today. If you have any other questions or would like more information on this presentation, on our CEU for performance classes according to the AAMA standards, or about Wojan in general, please feel free to contact us. Thank you and have a great day.